Hey, quick question for you. Is this the moment? Is this the moment where it actually starts to happen? I'm sure by now you all have heard about the controversy around the potential casting of my big sister Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Um, some white people are really mad. Some people are really, really mad. They're like, how could you cast her? How could you cast her as like the face that launched 1,000 ships? Like you think black women's faces didn't launch 1,000 ships. Why were your ancestors all over our continent trying to you literally took our grandmothers and our sisters and our aunties and our uncles and our fathers and our kings and you literally took them. Usually had to try to bottle what we have on the continent, put it in ships and send it other places to try and make money from it. And we're supposed to believe that that woman's face wouldn't launch 1,000 ships. This woman who is the blueprint. We're just supposed to pretend that like life didn't start in Africa. We're just supposed to pretend that we as human beings are not actually all connected, like regardless of race. And trust, I'm blackety black till the cows come home, but also like I'm a human and you're a human and we are all each other's, which is uncomfortable because I don't like some of y'all. I don't like the racist ones of you. But even still then, we belong to each other. So you don't understand that Lupita looks like your great, 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 greatest grandmother, the ancestor from Africa where life began. You don't see that? Bummer for you. It must be so confusing and painful to walk around this earth just being so shattered and disconnected. It must be so frustrating for you to keep feeling attracted to blackness and black people and black culture, but also not liking us at the same time. It must be so confusing to you why you have this like engine and this fire to just be so upset at the potential casting of a woman who kind of looks like me being positioned as beautiful in a big Hollywood film. What's going on for you inside that is itching you at night to the point that you're getting on your YouTube to now make videos about, oh my gosh, I can't believe they cast her. Wow, babe, I have compassion for you. I really do. It must suck to be walking through the world and just not being able to see all the ways in which that's a beautiful thing. It must means that you don't have the ability to see beauty in your life. It must be frustrating for you to be like, walking around this world with like your priorities so completely out of whack. And I know that you are trying to not live like that. I know that you're in a lot of pain. I know that you are creating these platforms for yourself so that you could just like work this out. But like, I just feel bad for you because this engine that you have, this thing that you are doing that you think is right, at your core, are you a good person who tries to do right in the world? I truly believe that. But where you're vibrating, babe, you're not even vibrating on the floor, my dear. You are vibrating. There's almost lava underneath the soles of your feet. That's how low you're vibrating. Do you know that Lupita Nyong'o looks like your greatest grandmother so far back before your family started to look white? Shame. Shame you talk about your own family like that. Shame. I feel bad for you. I know you're confused. I feel bad for you. Didn't know it was going to go there, but I actually feel bad for you. As human beings, we are each other's. I know that we live in a world that separates us by race, and I understand that, and that's part of the experience that I came to have on this planet. And like, it's when I choose a lot because I really fucking like being black. But um, yeah, like we are more alike than we are different. We are more connected than we are disconnected. And the pain and the frustration, the confusion you feel is that you keep trying to like paint the difference. And it's giving you a lot of power that somebody who is never even going to know your name, my dear, That lady is never going to meet you, and she's probably going to have more money than you for the rest of her life. She's just out here telling stories, defying the odds. And you want to sit on your computer and talk about how you, who, I'm not saying this to be mean, may not also be up to society's beauty standards. Beauty standards are a trap anyway, but let's say you yourself, when you put your picture on Tinder, on Hinge, you're not getting the likes from the girls you want to be getting the likes from. You're the one who's going on there on YouTube, even putting the camera on your face to say, Ati, this one is not beautiful. It doesn't make sense. You are the one who's saying this is EDI casting. You who looks down on EDI as if EDI and EDI practices were not developed to address a particular problem that you know exists. You live in the world. You watch the news. You've read even the sanitized versions of the history books still articulate the same problem. You know that the world treats people who look like me way different than people who look like you. You know that, my friend. You know that. Not only have you seen it on TV, you've seen it with your own eyes. You know it. So you're dragging a philosophy, a policy of making sure that we prioritize equity, meaning everything is fair for everyone in the way that makes sense. Diversity, meaning that we have people from different walks of life and abilities and ages and people who come from different origin points in the world. Inclusion, that the people who are different, we find ways to make it so that we can all take part in this thing and be part of this thing. That's the thing that you don't you think that's not a good idea. You think it's bad that workplaces decided to be like, sometimes we as human beings who have lived the lives we've had and for lots of different reasons, mostly out of our own control, we have biases. We tend to favor the people who look like us, sound like us, talk like us, think like us. And maybe there's value in making sure that there's a bit of a system in place so that we don't always just fall back on that. Because as much as it feels nice to have community and people who you feel like you vibe with in a certain way and who remind you of yourself, it's also really important to have people who come from different opportunities, different walks of life, different experiences, different thoughts, whose families look different, whose love relationships romantically look different, whose intentions look different, whose thoughts sound different. You're 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 saying that EDI, it's a bad thing to do for a movie, about an ancient Greek myth. You're saying that it's Greek. Why don't they cast Greek people? Okay, here's what I think. Uncle Christopher, he's going to do his Odyssey the way he wants to do it. Now, the thing with these things, it's like the Odyssey. It's an ancient myth, right? So, Greek theater, Greek mythology. I'm a theater kid, by the way. Um, I have a degree in theater. Love theater. Theater is my love language. Um, we were taught Greeks are the beginning of Western civilization. Greek theater, Greek, everybody. So it's like you think that we should be learning that in schools, but we shouldn't be able to embody the characters? Is that what you think? I'm actually just asking. If you're responding, no, you should learn about it, but you shouldn't be cast in it because that's not historically accurate. Okay. So if Christopher Nolan put out the Odyssey and the whole cast of people was only Greek niggas from Greece, let me scratch that word for a second, just to be really clear about who I'm talking to and what I'm talking about. He just cast Greek people. That's all. Do you know Greek actors? Christopher Nolan, an American British filmmaker who works in English. Do you know Greek actors that he could cast? I'm sure they're there, yeah. I'm sure they're there. But do you know, is there, do you have like specific names of who you'd like Mr. Nolan to cast? And just like seeing like also like the budget of this movie, and just like, yeah, knowing that it's like a Hollywood movie, and understanding that there's like a specificity to the way that machine works. And I'm not saying it should or should not work this way. I'm just saying that it works a particular way, and that knowing that Christopher Nolan um, is a director of a certain stature, who has earned his place there by his work and his eye and his work ethic. Um, is there any part of you that goes, hmm, that's not actually the choice I would have made, but interesting. I want to see what he'll do with that. Is there any part of you that did that? Or the moment that you saw that my sister was potentially cast, you just went, that's disgusting? Did you immediately in your brain Google a picture of her, but not at the Oscars, not on any red carpet? Did you specifically type her name, space, 12 Years a Slave? Is that what you type? Did an image of her pop up? Like a screen capture of her in like a whitish, linenish, beigeish kind of like dress thing with no makeup and her natural hair uncombed, sitting in a field of cotton? Is that what popped up? And you thought to yourself, this is supposed to be the face that launched 1,000 ships? And your stomach didn't like it, and you decided that that's a crazy thing to do? Is that how it happened? Oh, friend. I know you think that you're making a point by putting that picture of Lupita playing Patsy in 12 Years a Slave next to this bust of Helen of Troy, or comparing it to the other pretty white women who have played Helen of Troy. Are you asking questions about whether those women are actually Greek or no? It's just for the dark skinned black women? Just asking. Just want to make sure. Just trying to understand your perspective. Did you stare at that picture of Lupita in the cotton field, eyes full of depth and soul, that it translates even just through a picture on your phone? Did you look at her and think to yourself, not her? Is that really what happened? My friend, you don't see that picture of Lupita and think she's so fucking beautiful? You don't see how her soul resonates? Regardless of whether it's that baby blue ensemble when she wore the when she won the Oscar, or playing Patsy in a field, an incredibly vulnerable character. You don't think she's stunning? Patsy was a real person who endured things that we can't imagine. You don't think the Patsies of the world were beautiful? People who looked like Patsies suffered every day in that context of being enslaved. Part of the reason that Patsy suffered was because the white slave owner really liked her, and then the slave owner, slave master's wife, was it Sarah Paulson, who also eats down, by the way? Like, was it her who decided that, no, now I'm going to terrorize Patsy because my husband likes her? So isn't part of the reason that Patsy was suffering, or most of the reason, because she was actually too liked, that the person who owned everything actually saw her as so beautiful, to the point that he would even take advantage of her and be violent towards her. To the point that the wife of this person, who was, a white lady who was supposed to have all the privilege and literally owned humans, still felt so threatened by the way Patsy looked. Patsy, who couldn't read. Patsy, who was born into enslavement and would presumably die there. Patsy, who just woke up every day to pick cotton. Patsy, who smelled so bad she couldn't stand herself because the mistress would not give her soap. You think she didn't have something despite all of those struggles? I'm not even talking about Lupita now, I'm talking about Patsy, our grandmother Patsy. You think that the strength for the Patsies of the world to just literally wake up every day to know that that is the hell you are going to be subjected to, the fact that those people didn't just take it into their own hands and end it all, you think that that in its own way is not beautiful? So full of beauty that they had nothing but the instinct to survive. Some of y'all can't even handle it when your Uber is late. Some of you, I've been with some of you at the airport. The flight gets delayed because there's a snowstorm. You're shouting at the woman at the desk. This is ridiculous. Some of you can't handle the most minor discomfort. Some of you have never even left North America or the Western world. Some of you don't even know what it's like to do things for yourself because you live in a country that prioritizes convenience. Some of you, your norm is so privileged and unaware that those very exploitative conveniences that we have in North America that are on the backs of people who are less privileged than us, myself included, I'm implicated in this privilege as well. And this culture of convenience and this culture of like, oh my gosh, well, it's a little bit cold. My streetcar is delayed for 15 or 20 minutes. I guess I'll just call an Uber type of like, I am in this too, trust. As we are suffering because of that. As we're suffering because our Uber Eats came and then it wasn't as warm as we thought it should be. And then there were people who were ripped from their villages and their kingdoms and their queendoms and their altars and their sacred spaces, ripped from their yards, ripped from their homes, taken across the world in a ship underneath there, not seeing sunlight for weeks, months, lying in piss and shit next to dead bodies. Some of those men and women being abused and assaulted, being stolen at night, then you come back. To come to America, to have yourself stripped of language, which is the thing that you and I are connecting on right now, language. To be stripped of the way that you talk to your God and understand your relationship with God. To have that beaten out of you, or to have at least the right and the comfort to express it the way that you were taught, pummeled out of you. To go and be doing hard manual labor for no pay. The pay is that you get to stay alive and do more work. Not even fed properly. You have to grow your own shit and figure it out. Like, some of us don't know what to do when a pipe freezes in our building and we don't have water coming out of the tap for 12 hours. That's how some of us suffer. Then you have People like the Patsies of the world going through what they went through. Hmm. African Americans are superheroes. Specifically, that group of people who was enslaved, superheroes, if not gods. I really believe that. The amount of strength that it would have to take to just choose to survive, to just choose to dare to dream of a better outcome and not even know what that better outcome would be, it humbles me every single time. Some people had that manifest in such a way and found opportunities and courage and circumstance in which they ran. I can't imagine that. I can barely get to the theater that I work at, that I have worked at and visited many times before without using Google Maps. People were running in the forest at night. What? Just be like, I heard north is that way. Figure it out. Like the amount of strength. I can't even send an email to my accountant and I pay him. Like I'm the things I struggle with are just completely silly and trivial compared to these folks. Strength. I hear you. And I'm talking to Black people now. I hear you, family, about like, I'm tired of seeing slave narratives. I'm tired of seeing slave stuff. I hear you. And I just offer the reframe of you're not tired of seeing slave narratives because they're slave narratives. You're tired of seeing them because they're not framing our great grandmothers and grandfathers properly. Those people were superheroes. The space that they had to express their magic was small. I'm in a space professionally where I'm being really honest with myself about what are the roles I can and should take and what is the size of role that I am comfortable with. I feared that saying like I can only take a role of a certain size or a certain depth would come off as me having a big ego, me not being a team player, me needing to be the star or the lead, or me like I thought that there would be all of these negative associations, not just from other people if I declared that out loud, but also that they would be right in criticizing my desire to know that I should play roles that can hold the fullness of me. When I play a role that doesn't hold the fullness of me, it's actually very painful. When I feel like I don't get to fully express myself and what I have and what I feel like I'm here to do, like it's very painful. Even if I'm doing a good job, even if, I don't know, even if it's coming off well, like it's very, very painful to me. And I know that I am being called to step into my bigness, which is exciting. Scary, but in this moment, very exciting. I bring that up to say, when I think about what it feels like to feel like you have this much room to express, but you're only given this much space, I feel pain and tightness and grief in my chest. I've used the example of an acting role, but it could be for anything. It could be for a job. I'm sure many of you have had the experience of like, I'm working at a job in the most like lowly position. And I'm not even trying to talk about it in terms of like money or I'm not trying to demean whoever it is who's at the bottom of the pyramid, but There are certain types of brains who are supposed to be the leads of the company. There's certain type of brains who are supposed to be managing from the middle. And there's certain types of brains that are actually going to do best being part of that huge worker bee workforce. Many of you have been in a situation where you're like, my manager at my job is dumber than a sack of shit. And me, I'm smart, but that person is doing this job and me, I'm doing that job. So it doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel nice and it doesn't feel right to be in something that's not your size. Let me take it out of a professional context just to really drive the point home. When you were 10 years old, you had a favorite pair of jeans. Did you turn 14 and realize you could not squeeze into those jeans anymore? Did you turn 12 and realize that you could not squeeze into the jeans, even if you loved the jeans? You had to stop wearing those jeans. They were actually too small. They couldn't button up. You held on as long as you could. And even if you could somehow between 10 and 14, which is crazy, fit into that same pair of jeans, you couldn't walk properly. You couldn't walk freely. You'd literally be stiff like an ironing board there. You know, I think of those, those cards in Alice in Wonderland, and they just kind of like walk like this. Yeah, that would be you. You know what it feels like to be unable to express when you have so much to express. Let's put it in the context of even just a conversation or a friendship. Your best relationships, whether they be familial, romantic, friendship wise, or even just like work colleagues or someone you might have a random meeting with on the street, aren't the best conversations where you feel like you actually get to show up in your fullness and your bigness. Isn't that the reason why we always say, oh, I hate small talk? I hate small talk because we all have this instinct to express in our unique ways and we don't like the feeling that we can only stay in one small lane. How painful that is. Think back to people who were enslaved and are enslaved now today. Slavery is not over in so many ways. It's important to acknowledge that. Thank you, Spirit. That feeling of being crunched when you have so much more to share, how painful that is. How could that can actually drive you fucking mad. I know it drives me crazy. I know that now. I know that I can't play with that. I know that I can't play with that because I actually stopped being okay. Like I need to be in the spaces that I need to be in, and I thought anyway, it is dangerous to not be in the right spaces for me because that hurts me and my little privileged Western world life, right? I think back to how strong you would have to be Patsy. Don't frame that woman as anything but a fucking superhero, as an astronaut, as a Martian, as a god. The Patsies of the world who didn't know what was going to be next, didn't know how long they would survive, knew that they still had violence coming for them. Like, those guys who chose to just not kill themselves, not to just be like, it's a fucking, this place is trash. I get raped every day. This is trash. I have to fucking pick cotton from my hands, but I can't even wear anything. Like I have to smell like this. I have to let Sarah Paulson throw objects at my face. Like I'm not even allowed to have sovereignty over my own body. I don't eat well. I don't get along with a bunch of these other people who are here. If I do start to get attached to someone, they could just literally leave at any time. I'm not even sure what love is. I'm not even asking for much at this time, but at the same time, still we're like, I'm going to stay alive and I'm going to survive. And at certain moments, I'm going to find the strength to speak for myself and stand up for myself. If they can express like that under those incredibly crunched and violent circumstances, you're telling me that's not beautiful? You're telling me there's no beauty in those people who said, I don't know, but I might have a kid and I have a kid and I, 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 I don't know how I'm going to do it. I know that the circumstance where we are is fucking crazy. I know that. But I'm going to keep this baby and try to give it the best that I can, and I still know that this baby's going to suffer, but I there's something in me that feels like it is worth it. There's something in me that feels like something will be better for the baby or for us. And even if I don't live to see it in my lifetime, that there is something that is different than this. There is something in my body that remembers a space of freedom, a space that feels like home, a space where language has different colors and sounds, and it enters my ears and it swirls around my chest and it sits in my womb and it dances through my limbs and it feels like I am connected to my maker. I don't know. I don't know. I know we came from this other place and I know we're here and they don't like us here. They've made that clear and we ain't getting nothing from these guys. They're quite mean and sometimes they kill us. But I'm still gonna just stay alive. I'm just gonna keep the momentum of going forward. I have the tools, the space, and the resources. I could end my life if I wanted to, but I'm not gonna do it. And I know that sounds crazy and I don't know why. The fact that most people who were enslaved had that instinct. Despite, of course, there was unbelievable trauma happening. And the way that you process those things or try to survive those things is not pretty. I'm not trying to romanticize my understanding of my very small understanding of what that experience must have been. But what I am saying is, those people deserve to be celebrated, man. The patsies of the world? You guys, beauty is not about how your face looks. That's not the important thing. It's like one sliver of it. Sure, it can be. Beauty is actually about what's here in the soul. We say that Helen of Troy was so beautiful that her face launched 1,000 ships. First of all, you people who are criticizing, you didn't even do. My friend, have you actually read the myth? Yes, it talks about her beauty, but it's beauty is, this is what I'll say. Beauty is the word that they use, but nobody can be that beautiful without having an essence. And it's the men around her who made the decisions of how they wanted to try and capture and use and interpret and try to siphon Helen's essence. It wasn't just that she was an Instagram baddie. Read the fucking myth. If you're gonna stand here, sit here, and talk about how could they cast Lupita, da 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 da. Okay, fine. Let's say the ancient Helen of Troy, I feel like the actual Helen of Troy. I feel like that lady looked Ethiopian. I feel like she was giving a little Habisha vibe, skin tone wise. That's what I think. I don't know. Friendly reminder that like your greatest ancestors looked like me. So read the myth. So yeah, we're talking about beauty. We're talking about the definition of beauty from thousands of years ago. Very different context. Those folks did not have social media. They didn't have pictures. That's why they had to, like, if they wanted to memorialize people, they literally had to be like, okay, I'm gonna get this block of stone and try and carve what I feel like your face looks like into this. That's why people were doing that. It's not because they like carving things. It's because they're like, how do I actually capture this? Right? There were no photos. There were no videos. There was no Snapchat. So imagine somebody goes to war in another country. They are killing, raping, pillaging everything. They're doing that. Imagine. People were going 10 years, 12 years, they're not seeing their bays because of these wars. Think about it. And they just remember, they were like, they would remember, my bay is beautiful. You think that was just about her face? It has nothing to do with her face. If, sir, sir, be serious with yourself. Imagine you go somewhere for 12 years, you never see a photo of the person that you love, your most, like the most beautiful person in the world, who, let's say you're lucky enough to be really attracted to them and they love you the fuck back. They love you down. Imagine you didn't see that person for 12 years. The thing that you would be remembering in the night, her physical beauty or the features of her face or even the texture of her skin, is not the thing that's going to keep you alive. It's her essence. It's her like woman power. It's the energy coming from her womb and her pussy. It's the heart. It's how all of this connects and shines through her eyes to look at you and favor you. Lucky you to have a woman so beautiful. But the problem is, some of y'all, man, and everybody, but I'm just calling out the man in this particular instance, don't understand that the true beauty is not actually about how our faces are proportioned or whatever. It's actually about what is the connection that we have and how can we filter that through our eyes, look at you so that you may be blessed and highly favored. That is the beauty, I believe, that the ancient Greeks were on about. So, what if Lupita Nyong'o does not look anything like how Helen of Troy looked? But what if she is exactly of the energy? You think a dark skinned Kenyan girl who didn't grow up pretty, by the way. Lupita only started being treated like that pretty girl, like now in Hollywood. Oh, she's so beautiful. And even her version of being treated as that pretty girl still comes with all of this complication where you still had like even black women were talking about her looking like a slave with her short hair and her natural hair on the red carpet. Y'all remember that? Lupita, who wasn't even a American, came to school for like a university like this from Kenya, and somehow the universe said yes, 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 yes. First film Oscar with a performance that ate down. She would sit, and I could just see this girl is channeling. So when I think of the original Patsy, and I don't know if Patsy had children, it's not something I've looked into, but I go, Patsy is a superhero because even just her spirit, her essence, that she came and visited Lupita and that Lupita let her visit, and that they understood each other. They were connected to the point that Lupita didn't have to be there overthinking it at a certain point. She just was. That energy that's so strong. And it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to talk about Solomon's energy, right? So Solomon was the lead guy, played by Chiwetel in the movie. That's one thing. He wrote the book. He also was not a slave. Then he became a slave for 12 years. For 12 years, eh? Then he enslaved himself. And then he went back, then he wrote a book about it. That's why we got the book. That's why we got the movie. Patsy didn't write anything. Patsy is so strong that she didn't even write it for herself, that her friend remembered her and wrote it. And we got to meet her on screen through this, my big sister. Why? Because Lupita had the depth, the capacity, the compassion, the intelligence, and the integrity to hold Patsy. That might be the most important, big, wide, beautiful role she ever plays. It might not, but if it is, that's incredible. Because it means that there's something about Patsy's strength and the Patsies of the world. Because Patsy was not just representing herself, even though that part was very important to the spirit, to be like, me, Patsy, me. This was my name, Patsy, me. But also the secondary part of that was like all the people that Patsy represented and represents, the superhumans, the women we come from, the foremothers of Black American culture specifically, Black American culture that Black Americans are superheroes, dude. Like Black American culture that influences global culture. Like, you will go to Asia, to Korea, to Japan. People are there dancing to hip hop. Even K-pop. K-pop started. K-pop is one of those things where it's like there's so many genres of music. How do I even get into it? K-pop sounds and the raps and the beats. That started with our shit. Look it up. And like, big love to K-pop. Like, love that. People of different races are coming doing hip hop, teaching classes. Black American, like, let's even remove it from hip hop. Let's just talk about jazz. You know, that's ours, right? Like, do you know that came from people who Patsy was their great grand? That's jazz. Blues, country music, my guy, rock and roll. I'm just giving you an ounce of what the people who are descended from those people gave the world. I'm not even in the bag talking about the scientific inventions. Shout out Elijah McCoy. I'm not even in the science bag. Like, that's what that group of people gave the world. And we as Black people want to sit here and say we don't want to hear stories about them. I hear you, cousins. Like, I actually totally hear you 100%, but I just want to reframe and let us be specific about the language. It's not that we shouldn't have more slave narratives. We should have more narratives that frame our foremothers, forefathers, our ancestors in the correct light. Because if you tell that story about a woman living on a plantation, suffering and receiving all of this abuse and being Black and then being told this and then being beaten, and like, if you tell it like that, if you tell it with this energy, and then at the end she gets to have a glass of water and hopefully think about the future, and that's enough for her because she's Black. Of course you don't want to see that fucking story. That's awful. But if you tell a story about that woman, that same woman, literally, not me bringing up Cardi B right now. Spirit is rude. Why am I bringing up Cardi B? Hi, Cardi B. You know that song that she's like, basically, it's like I get knocked down 9 times and I get up 10, something like that. If you tell the story of like something keeps trying to bring this woman down, this man down, this person down, this Black person down, this slave, something keeps trying to bring them down. And for some reason, they keep waking up the next day in the morning. It's still grueling. It's still brutal. It's still painful to watch and painful to make. And I'm not discounting that when we say we don't want to see slave narratives. Like, it's part of it is also it's very painful and triggering, and that it exists in our bodies in a very particular like DNA ancestral way. And so it's difficult to see that. I get that, but let's just frame these people as the superheroes that they were, as the gods that they were, as the leaders that they were. Because the thing that actually shows your personality, your integrity, your truth is not what you do when you're completely comfortable. It's what you do when you're uncomfortable, when you don't have all the resources, when you're crunched, when you're not being respected, when you're not being seen in the image of God. Like, you're just being seen as a tool. You're not even being seen as a person. Think about any challenges you've had in your life and how you showed up for those challenges. That's who you are. You're not who you are when everything is nice. Because everyone can be nice to people when everything is going well. And think about the people you really value and love and respect. I'm not trying to romanticize trauma or say that like we have to be tricky about the way we frame this. So sometimes I've heard the loving misogyny sometimes of people being like, well, my mom had 7 grains of rice, 95 kids, and she never complained. Like, no, your mom was allowed to complain. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we should just like romanticize and like enjoy the obstacles of it all. But what I'm saying is it's such a tricky, it's just a slight reframe because I want to hear your mom, that story of your mom and the 75 children. Was it 95? You'll correct me. And 6 grains of rice and how she taught you about God and made you be a good person and retete. Like, I want to hear that story if that's your real story. But the way we frame that is important. The way we frame that is so important. It's so important. It's so important. It's so important. So let's not articulate these things in a way that we're not now celebrating our mothers who are worthy of celebration and storytelling and even interrogation, even being held to account and being challenged. Like, let's not tell those stories because we only have examples of one or two kind of ways to tell that story. Here's why I think it's so important, because I'm right. And the other reason I think it's so important is that it's a sneaky white supremacy thing. I really believe that. If you make us believe, and also if you don't know this about me because you don't know me in life, I was born in Zambia, Coachella. I was raised in the Caribbean. I currently live in what is colonially known as Canada. I live in Toronto, right? So I talk about African Americanness as I'm a when I speak about African Americanness and like specifically like African American slave um, times, stories, I just want to be completely transparent about what my relationship is to that. So I'm not a direct daughter as much as I am a cousin. And also, as a Black person in the Western world, like there's such a huge, um, there are so many ways in which we are cultural beneficiaries of Black American culture, narrative, strength, perseverance, trauma, even, right? It's not, yeah, there's layers to this shit, is what I'm saying. Hmm. We have to be careful that we don't miss out on the opportunities, that we don't miss out on the opportunities to tell the stories of those our great grandmothers and grandfathers and grand aunties and grand cousins because we are tired of the way those stories are told when the reality is there's 1,000 more ways to tell those stories. We can tell those stories and feel good at the end. We can tell stories about people who are enslaved and leave the theaters feeling like we just watched a Marvel movie. I remember the feeling of watching Black Panther. Hi, Chadwick Boseman. I remember that. That was special. I remember being in the theater in Brampton, Ontario. I think I was with my mummy and my little sister. Makambe and her mother. Do we go to Marvel movies? No, that's not our life. That's not the things we like so much. But we were there, my sister. Brampton is very Black and brown. Big Black population, big South Asian population. Like, so Black and brown, literally. In this Black and brown theater, almost full, watching these little Black and brown kids look up at T'Challa, like, look up at Shuri, like, we left that theater feeling like, holy shit. Ah! Like, what was really exciting and sometimes tender, I'll be honest, but also ultimately exciting, was seeing Caribbean folks and African American folks really be like, we're African, we're African. Because sometimes, not always, not everyone, but like as an African person, I've been in spaces where other Black people from the diaspora really have this separation and feel some type of way because I'm an African from Africa, and have said very problematic and shitty things to me, and have tried to distance us, to sever us from each other, as if I'm looking at you like, no, you're not only are you my cousin, you're my father, you're my son, you're my best friend, you're my child, you're my grandfather, I'm your granddaughter. Like, we are each other's. So them creating a separation as black people, be like, oh, but we're not from Africans, because the Africans, they like, nigga, you African. Welcome. So seeing all these videos of like people, and then they were coming out, they were wearing dashikis, which they bought from, some of them were from Shein. Hey, it's okay. We have to start somewhere. Hi, cousins. Coming out, doing dances, reconnecting with that pride. And I was like, welcome home. Yeah. Yes. Hi, Ryan Coogler. Ryan. I have a script that I think you would love to talk to me about. Anyway, that's for another time. But yeah. Hi. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you endlessly. Thank you. Not just for what you've made, but what you're working on right now and what you're going to make. Thank you. I'm serious. Let's talk. Let's talk. I think we'll get along very well. And at the very least, I'll be very earnest and possibly entertaining. Thank you. Yeah, family. This is the reason that I'm naming this video Why I'm Hungry for More Slave Narratives. It's not about, let's not make the slave narrative itself the bad thing. Let's not make the people who are enslaved the bad thing. Because the way that we frame it right now in society makes it seem like we shouldn't talk about them. We should be embarrassed to talk about them. And I know that it's not just that. Like I said, there's a layer of also like it's painful, and we are more than that. And I understand that framing, but I just ask you to consider, like, put yourself in those situations, that put yourself there and think about how you would manage, how you would cope, what you would do. I understand why people say, like, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, because they're like, wow, my ancestors were literally on a plantation, and they couldn't even dream that I could speak, like sit at the same room in white as white people, much less do what I'm doing. And I love that phrase, and I also challenge it at the very same time, because I'm like, if the only frame that we had to understand your ancestors' power was to understand that they were placed in this tiny box, and somehow still in this box they thrived based off of their conditions, they thrived, still lost their language, it was stolen from them, created their own language, lost their ancestral songs, kept it somehow, and found their own multiple genres of music, and still were doing science and divination and high priestessing and vibes, and still somehow feeding their kids, and still somehow dreaming and falling in love, and still getting married under these crazy circumstances where literally, if you marry someone on this plantation and then that mean white guy decides, we're going to sell your husband, there's nothing you can do, my friend. There's nothing you can do. And you are still daring to take the risk to be like, I'm gonna love this nigga anyway. Can you? So so if that is the formula, right? But the platform for where your great grandfather could really be himself, your great grandmother could really like show who they are, was just this small. Put that person now in this day and age where there's so much more space. Then they would be being a superhero in a way that you would understand. Which is why we love these stories about um, people who basically like went through some hard shit as black people, and then they persevered. Like, that's why we have this narrative of like the first black Shenshani, the first black, that's where that instinct is where it's coming from. And I know, I understand that there's a lot of energy, understandably, around like I don't know, what is the black, like that joke about like the black Oscar bait movie and like how there's like, it's like black people suffering while being excellent. Here comes a white savior who's different from the other whites because the other white people are super mean and this white person's kind of nice. And it's like, hey, I know everybody else treats you like a slave, but I think you actually might be a person. And I've noticed that you're great at math or great at building things, la la la, and I'm gonna help you a little bit. And here's some freedom, come take it. And then the black person's like, freedom, freedom, thanks, white guy. I'm free while being black. I didn't want very much, but now I'm free. Wow, this was great. That's a particular framing of how certain black folks uh, came to thrive. That it like it frames the allyship in a particular way, that it's always some white people. It's always like one white person being like, I know, I'll help you because actually you might be a person. And then the white person gets mad cookies for being like, yeah, he is a person. You're right. He is a person. And it's just like, yes, yes, for allyship. And we should all be good allies to anyone who's less privileged than us. But I'm just trying to say, like, cousins, I get it. I get it. And I agree with you. But let's just, I still think that enslaved people are under celebrated, deeply under celebrated. And I think the white supremacy in it is like making us feel embarrassed about associating ourselves with people who were looking like Patsy in that photo. When I see that photo of Lupita in the cotton field, sitting there, even though she is playing and channeling a character who was experiencing great pain, I'm not even joking with you. I see a queen, and bigger than a queen, I see a god. I see beauty that is not able to be even articulated. Like, beauty is just the best word that I can find. Power, magnetism, majesty, humility, but with a confidence and a knowing and a strength. And when people have that kind of knowing, nigga, that shit's magnetic. Knowing. Whatever it is they have the knowing about. That's why confident people are hot. And not cocky people. Cocky people are not hot. Confident people are hot. Because real confidence is actually quiet. When you're in the true vibration of it, you don't need to explain and like make anyone understand. You don't need to justify. You don't need to apologize. You just are. You're just doing it. You're just embodying that kind of strength that I believe that Lupita has and can hold is actually the exact energy that launches 1,000 ships. How many ships do you think went from Africa to the Caribbean and North America and South America? How many ships? I think 1,000 is probably small. And you think our faces weren't launching ships, my friend. Cousins, my last point is that similarly, we talk a lot about like, there's a lot of like dragging on the internet of like Tyler Perry movies, Tyler Perry films. Why is he always framing us in trauma? The thing is, and I'll talk more about this later, that like stories are about trauma. Stories are about pain, discomfort, trauma in some shape or form. It's about how we frame them. Because let me just talk about Black women and two Black women for a second. We know that we're the ones. What's that phrase? My friend Big Sis Akosia would just say, like, we worked on a show called Three Sisters together. And she played my older sister in the show. And she was like, have you seen that meme on the internet? That's just like Black women. And that's just the meme. It'd be like somebody fixes something, it's like it's Black women. Somebody shows up with like the biggest amount of grace, compassion, Black women. Someone just looks good, Black women. Like we know that we're it, right? So we are keen to have representations that celebrate our itness, and that itness is demonstrated through a multiple like a multitude of things, including our joys, including like the hilarious ways that we got out of like tricky situations, including how nice we look in a dress, including the fact that some of us have had really tough lives, that there are Black women out there who have stories that are chilling in terms of what these women have gone through. Those stories deserve to be told, but it's about how we frame them. Let us frame ourselves as superheroes. Even if we are imperfect superheroes and complicated, we are and we're always going to be, we're humans, but it's not about, oh, why do we have to have stories about trauma all the time? We have to have stories need conflict. Stories need conflict. So if the issue is that you don't like the nature of the conflict that is being explored in these Black narratives, I'm thrilled to hear you say that. I can't wait to see what you write. Back to the beginning of the video, is this when we actually realize that, like, we're not the two, we're the one, and that we get to write our own stories and create our own narratives? That we can do whatever the fuck we want. My nigga, like, we can do whatever the fuck we want. Is this when we realize? Is this it? Is this the time now? I think it's the time. I know about you, darling. I think it's the time. I think it's the time. That's all that I have to say. I have ramped for an hour. Stop all the ramping. Yeah. Um, Things I want to share about me before I go. I'm a dramaturg and story consultant and a writing coach, among many other things. But I want to share that if you're like, I really want to write a thing and me not know where to start. You're not sure where to begin. You're not sure how, if the thing that you're thinking in your mind is actually going to be able to make a play or a movie or a book or something. Like, if you need to consult in terms of like, can you just talk through my idea with me to make sure it makes sense? I got you. um, Send me an email. I got you. We'll figure something out. If you have like something that you actually want me to read pages and give you feedback, I got you. If you just want to like sort of talk and pick my brain about process, like, I got you. I've got lots of offers and things coming up for this year. Lots of things that I'm writing as well that I can't wait to share, and also like be in process with you all and take you on these journeys with me. And yeah, really keep spirit first and really practice my truth telling. I feel like in 2025, it is something that I don't want to say I lost it, but the sharpness with which I can truth tell and have truth told and got myself to, those blades dulled. And so I am excited about getting into a sharper place with that. And that includes writing and also making videos like this where I just like say the fucking thing and I don't censor myself. Oh, it feels so good. It feels so good. It feels so good. Ah. Woo. Wow. That was a whoa. Whoa, I'm coming back down to earth now. Ah, spirit is rude. I can't believe you made me say all that stuff on the internet. My phone's about to die. I have to stop this video. Oh my god. Ah, okay. If you want to work with me, message me and just be on the lookout on my socials. I'll let you know what I've got on offer and how we can do that. Either way, sending you big love and abundance and good vibes. And like, I can't believe Spirit made me name this video Why I'm Hungry for More Slave Narratives. Oh, now I'm having a little, not a vulnerability hangover fully, but I'm just a bit like, oh, I just did that. Okay, anyway, let me post this before I change my mind because I'm staying brave because it's 2026. Okay, I love you. Bye.